Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, after yesterday's show on Roseanne, I got an email from a listener who happens to be a police officer. And I wanted to share it with you. I wanted to start the show by sharing this letter I got from a police officer with you. Only because I think it has something to do with what he sees every single day in the line of duty. But he was able to put into words what I try and say on the show every single day better than I've ever been able to. He says, "Dear AD, your show needs to be on at a better time." Tell me about it. But I digress. He said, "More people need to hear what you have to say, and I'm not saying this as a fan or a listener. I am both. I'm saying this as a cop. It would make my life easier if more people thought like you do, and people have to hear what you say so they can get their heads right." Well, I don't know about all that, but anyways, he goes on to say, "I don't know if you realize this, but the way you talk about divisive issues is very similar to how professional crisis negotiators do things." I did not know that. But anywho, he said, "In my line of work," and this is the part that really stood out to me, "in my line of work, I see people who are ready to kill each other every day over disagreements, simple disagreements that have gotten out of hand. What most people don't realize in the heat of conflict is that just because they are right, it doesn't make the other person wrong." Oh, so beautiful, so simple. Like I said, this guy manages to sum up what I've been trying to say on the show every single day so much better than I ever could. I'm just going to read that part again because I think it's beautiful. "What most people don't realize in the heat of conflict is that just because they are right, it doesn't make the other person wrong." He goes on to say, "Usually I can diffuse a situation by helping people understand that. You do the same thing. I am a diehard conservative who couldn't bring myself to vote for Hillary. But I am no fan of Trump. And the reason I don't like him is because under his presidency, the country has become divided and angry. People have blinders on, and their devotion to a political affiliation borders on the fanatical. As I take the temperature of the country in my line of work, it feels like all of America is a pointless, boneheaded, dangerous bar fight waiting to happen. Listening to people like you would help us all. The way you talk about things makes me wonder if you have a background in law enforcement or counseling." No, I don't. I mean, I attended counseling, oftentimes for depression and anger and things of that nature, and I think I probably picked up some tricks that maybe I applied to this show whilst I was doing that. But no, I don't have a background in law enforcement or counseling. Anyways, he goes on, "Either way, your take on Roseanne was perfect. So many people want to make it into something it's not. She said something stupid. She got fired. The end. I drive a lot, and I listen to a lot of talk radio and podcasts, and you were the only host who didn't try to turn it into something bigger than it is. Thank you for being cool and calm, as opposed to fanning the flames. If more people listened to you, my job as a police officer would be easier. If more people were like you, my job might not be necessary. Thank you for all that you do." Well, first and foremost, let me say, it is incredibly humbling to get a letter like that from someone who is willing to put their life on the line every single day to serve and protect their community. Unbelievably humbling. And you and I were just having a conversation. But I'm very glad that this particular police officer, whose name I'll leave out because he didn't say whether or not he wanted it used, but I'm very glad this particular police officer sort of reinforced what I think, which is everybody just needs to calm the hell down. It's beautiful what he said. Just because someone is right doesn't make the other person wrong. We all have our point of view. And we are all walking around cocked and loaded, ready for a fight at any time. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know where people have confused winning with trolling other people, angering other people, and making other people feel small. If you want to win, you're trying to win somebody around to your way of thinking. When you troll someone, when you anger someone, when you make somebody feel small and insignificant and wrong over the course of an argument, are you really winning anything? No. All you've really done is strengthen their resolve that they're going to come back and get you. All you've really done is widen a divide that is already entirely too big in America. And it's so useful for us to have heard these words from somebody that prevents violence for a living today. So I thank him for his email, this police officer, and I am humbled that you reached out the way you did. You rule. Thank you so much, and thank you for putting your life on the line to keep all of us safe.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So you really have to be able to check yourself in 2018 before you rickety wreck yourself. It's true, though. You have to really know your own moral compass and where its true north is. Because, well, the madding crowd will convince you otherwise of pretty much everything. The madding crowd exists primarily online, and they're effing crazy, but they disguise themselves as sane people. It's true. And I bring this up because what's going on with Roseanne right now almost perfectly mirrors what happened with Kathy Griffin. You remember, of course, what happened with Kathy Griffin. She took that unbelievably poorly thought out picture of her holding an effigy of Donald Trump's severed head. The world responded saying, that's absolutely not cool and not funny, and what the hell are you thinking? And she went, you're right. That was bad. I appear to be losing all my shows. I'm sorry. I'm going into damage control mode now. I'm going to apologize left, right, and center, up and down, and say I didn't think it out, and it was insensitive, and I was just trying to make a joke, and I pushed it too far, and oh, how will you ever forgive me? Well, I'm going to earn your trust back, and all of the above. And then enough people online got at Kathy Griffin and went, what are you doing? Don't apologize. That guy sucks. You're awesome. You need to tell it like it is, sister. Yeah. And she went, you know what? You're right. I'm not wrong, and I'm not sorry, and I'm going to fight back. Yes, Donald Trump broke me. Remember that statement? Donald Trump broke me. Well, it's not exactly like he was unprovoked. You too might get a little testy if somebody holds up an effigy of your cut off head and proclaims that it's funny. But whatever the case may be, there's a stunning parallel between what happened with Kathy Griffin and what's going on with Roseanne at the moment. Roseanne Barr seems to be in step 2 of the Kathy Griffin model for stupid joke damage control. She hasn't taken back her apology yet, but she's not really willing to accept the consequences. So she's blaming others. She's whining about other people who have said worse things and vowing to fight back. By the way, whining about other people that said worse things. This is such a common occurrence in our political process, and I don't know how it happened because it's something that was supposed to be dealt with when we were toddlers. Do you remember what your mom and your teacher and your father and pretty much every parent and authority figure ever said to you when you were a kid? Over and over again about two wrongs and how they don't make it right? The idea of, I guess, who was it? Was it John Oliver? I think called it whataboutism. It is absolutely destroying any productive dialogue in situations like this one. Just because somebody says, hey, Roseanne Barr, that's not cool what you did, comparing Valerie Jarrett to a cast member from Planet of the Apes. That's unbelievably uncool and racist. And in and of itself, that's enough. And then someone goes, what about that time Bill Maher compared Donald Trump to an orangutan? Shouldn't he lose his job on HBO? And you hear enough of those things, you start to go, well, what about that? What about that? And all of a sudden, the remorse starts to leave your body as it is happening, as it is doing. And all of a sudden, the remorse, that seems to fade off into the distance. And that's what's going on with Roseanne. Like I said, she hasn't taken back her apology yet, but she's not willing to accept the consequences. So like I said, she's blaming other people. She's whining about other people who've said worse. She's participating in whataboutisms, and she's vowing to fight back. Despite promising that she was leaving Twitter this past Tuesday just gone by, she's since tweeted and retweeted well over 200 messages in 2 short days, where the general vibe is that she did something wrong, but that she's being wronged by everyone for doing something wrong that actually wasn't really that wrong. I'm sorry, but not really that sorry because I wasn't that wrong. That appears to be, like I said, phase 2 of the Kathy Griffin model for stupid joke damage control. Remember that thing where Kathy Griffin was like, I'm not sorry. Trump broke me. You did something unbelievably aggressive toward him. Go figure. But anyways, for starters, Roseanne is now saying that her racist tweet about Valerie Jarrett, not actually racist. She said it was just insensitive. She wanted to clear it up. Not racist, just insensitive because she, quote, thought Valerie was white. Yeah. She retweeted a conspiracy theory that Michelle Obama was behind the cancellation of Roseanne. She replied to Sarah Gilbert, who plays Darlene on the show, with shock for condemning her tweet. She also replied to Michael Fishman, who played DJ on the show, saying, quote, I created the platform for inclusivity, and you know it. Me. You throw me under the bus. Nice. You threw yourself under the bus. And when he tried to explain himself, she said, quote, please leave me alone. A follower asked her if her apology was sincere, now that she's complaining about the fallout, and she said, quote, it was sincere, but there's just a limit of bullying I'm going to remain silent for. Go away. And she admitted to feeling boosted by all the support she got online. Like I said, the madding crowd, they masquerade as sane people, but they'll tell you the craziest stuff on the face of the freaking planet is okay, and you hear it enough times, and apparently if you're Roseanne Barr and a lot of other people, you start to believe it. She was boosted by all the support she got online from people who apparently agree that she's the victim somehow. She tweeted, quote, you guys make me feel like fighting back. I will examine all of my options carefully and get back to you. She did have one request, though. She wants more Twitter followers to spread her message. She reiterated that there isn't a racist bone in her body, saying, I'm not racist, I never was, and I never will be. One stupid joke in a lifetime of fighting for civil rights for all minorities. She also said that she received support from her black friends and complained that most of the people calling her racist are white. Yeah. Now, what did Donald Trump have to say about all this? Oh, man. Didn't let us down.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
So people are screaming and yelling and mad and angry and outraged and ranting and raving. And you know what? Let's have a little palate cleanser before we dive back in. Because if you are like me, you believe that you, me, all of us, we're essentially good. We don't have malice in our hearts toward anyone. We're just trying to make our way in the world the best way we can. And somehow, crazy keeps moving in to the zeitgeist of thought in America, and people seem so hell-bent on just dragging you into their garbage. And you know what? It's one of the reasons that I talk about this on the show a lot. It really does come down to you. You might look around and go, the world is insane. We are in an insane place at the moment. There's nothing that makes me feel good or secure. Wait a second. A Kardashian met our president so that they could talk about prison reform? I don't feel okay about anything in that sentence and what it says about our chances of survival moving forward. And yeah, by the way, that totally happened. We'll probably talk about it a little later on in the show. But you can look at all these insurmountable odds, the insanity that takes place as part of our political and societal process every single day, and you could feel small and you could feel helpless. But you know what? You're not. You never are. See, that's the weird thing about America. It really celebrates groups and joiners The whole political process is based on the idea that politicians would really just like you to sign up to vote straight ticket, whatever the hell it is they are. We have a process that requires that you be registered as something to take part in the primaries. How unbelievably wrong is that? They want to put you in a box. They want to put you in a box so they can count on you not thinking about things. And this is why it's so weird to me, because America is a country that was founded on the idea of individual liberty and free will. Yet, the individual is not really rewarded or celebrated. In fact, the individual, if you want to remain an individual, if you want to not declare a loyalty to a political party in this country, you don't get to take part in the primaries. How effed up and jacked up and not in line with what our founding fathers wanted is that? So there's this brainwashing that happens in society about the idea that you, by yourself, are meaningless. You must register as something and toe that party line. No, damn it, you're you. And you do what you want when you're good and ready to do it. Regardless of what people around you tell you you should do. Regardless of what our government tells you you must do to participate in our version of democracy. You're you. And when you feel small in the face of everything that's going on, the sheer overwhelming insanity that has become part of our daily life, with all of this on the left, on the right, up, down, sideways, everywhere. When you feel small in the face of it and you go, oh, what can I do? Me, what can I do? I can't change the fact that the whole nation has gone freaking insane. Well, here's the thing though. You have tremendous power to affect everybody you meet. You have tremendous power to affect everybody you meet with a smile. Something simple. Cheery goodwill. Whatever it takes. You have a tremendous ability to be the change that you would like to see. And I know that's a tired old expression, but it gets repeated because it means something. You have the power to write your own story every single day. And when you feel small in the face of it all, never forget the ability you have to affect the outcome of your own day and how your day goes and how you can write your own story. It's so unbelievably powerful. And in the face of mass hysteria, like the kind of thing that we've been experiencing for the last, I'm going to say 10 or so years in this country, it's easy to lose sight of that. But you can make such a tremendous difference. And it's all down to you. And like I said, you're a good person. You don't want to bother anyone. You have malice in your heart toward no one. And for that reason, I think we need, before we dive into the rest of the insanity that the world has offered up this week, we need a bit of a palate cleanser. A train car full of people on the Long Island Railroad broke into an impromptu sing-along of Piano Man recently. Started when somebody asked a Billy Joel impersonator to sing a few lines, and everybody joined in.
We're all in the mood for a melody. You got us feeling all right.
It's cute, right? The woman who posted it on Twitter said, "This is what society should be like. Peaceful, united, happy." And you know what? It's good to remind ourselves during times like these that sometimes it is. But yeah, never forget your ability to affect the world. Your sphere of influence, everyone you meet, everyone you encounter during your day. You have this insane, amazing, incredible power to improve the quality of their day and their lives. You do that day in and day out by just being a decent person with a smile and a friendly attitude. You, my friend, are changing not only your world, but the world. And we can't forget that as we wade into, like I said, the insanity that the world has offered up this week. Now, a lot of people are wondering exactly what's going on with President Donald J. Trump vis-a-vis the Roseanne situation. And, oh man, I wonder what Billy Bush makes of all this, because Billy Bush was just around when Donald Trump said something. And, well, Donald Trump's now leader of the free world, and he is not employed. I don't think he lost everything. That's what he lost just by being around Donald Trump at a very unfortunate time when a tape recorder was rolling. And so Roseanne Barr, who's been a vocal supporter of Donald Trump, perhaps was, as she was gathering support for her cause, as she was urging people to spread her message of, I'm sorry, but not that sorry, and I thought Valerie Jarrett was right, therefore I'm not racist, I'm just insensitive. As she was urging people to back her up, she was probably expectantly looking at the Twitter account of one Donald J, thinking maybe a tweet of support would come her way. Here's the thing, though. Donald Trump has an incredible ninja-like ability to make everything about himself. It's black belt level narcissism. Instead of commenting on the racist tweet, like I said, Donald Trump managed to make it about himself. In case you missed it, he tweeted, quote, Bob Iger of ABC called Valerie Jarrett and let her know that ABC does not tolerate comments like those made by Roseanne Barr. Gee, he never called President Donald J. Trump to apologize for the horrible statements he made and said about me on ABC. Maybe I just didn't get the call. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, since Roseanne blamed Ambien tweeting, someone jokingly updated Wikipedia's page on Ambien to include a warning about how the side effects can include racism and loss of a sitcom. It was later corrected. Ambien also jumped in, tweeting, quote, people of all races, religions, and nationalities work here every day to improve the lives of people around the world. While all pharmaceutical treatments have side effects, racism is not a known side effect of our medication. And, well, you could laugh at it if it wasn't big pharma. Netflix is also trying to bite off the Roseanne cancellation. They tweeted, quote, remember, One Day at a Time is a sitcom about a tight-knit working-class family that tackles extremely topical social issues in a smart and innovative way. You know, if you're suddenly looking for a show like that. Whoopi Goldberg went off on Roseanne for retweeting fake memes where she's wearing a shirt with Trump shooting himself in the head. Roseanne later admitted it was fake. And, well, if you care at all about Kathy Griffin's take on Roseanne Barr, she's been tweeting about it too. She said, it's not lost on me that I can't get a TV gig or a special despite selling out shows in major venues across the country because of a pic with a mask and ketchup, and that Roseanne got a network show despite tweeting insane racist conspiracy theories that she actually believed. The reality is ABC, like anyone with the ability to see, hear, and read, knew who Roseanne was when they gave her this show. They wanted to get a piece of Trump conservative world business, so I'm not going to heap praise on Bob Iger or anyone else at the network. Basically saying, no, they don't get the virtue signal because they didn't give me a show. So there's that. But this is exactly what we talked about on the show yesterday. It comes down to money. There's so many people that were just like, oh man, it's a deep state lefty plot to get rid of a famous person that's actually a Trump supporter. That's what that is. No, it's not. It was an enormous payday. It was a massive cash grab. It's something that they are very, very sad to see go away. And the folks that were like, yay, Disney, ABC, there's a company that's in line with my set of values. No. Believe me, if they could have weathered the storm and kept the show on the air and kept collecting the massive, massive checks that were coming in based on the advertising, as opposed to worrying about the advertising abandoning ABC in its totality, they would have done that. We talked about this a lot on the show. And if you missed it, do yourself a favor and check it out. It was a humdinger. Roseanne was, of course, on a top show back in the early 90s, and The Revival was one of the most watched shows of the year. So maybe it's not that crazy that some diehard fans are not yet willing to let it go. For starters, some people on social media have been talking about bringing Roseanne back without Roseanne Barr. Yeah, Variety says there actually have been some preliminary talks about doing something with the rest of the cast. But there's some really big hurdles because Roseanne has a significant stake in the show. A new version would still benefit her financially, and that would be a non-starter for everyone involved. So it's a really, really, really long shot at this point. The talks have only been amongst the producers. ABC hasn't weighed in. That said, ABC would benefit from getting something out of this because the main actors and the top writers and producers have partially guaranteed contracts and are still expected to be paid. So like I said, this is not easy for ABC. This was not their plot to unseat Roseanne because she was too conservative and too popular. No, they were enjoying the cash flow. And without it happening, they're out a whole bunch of money. But the window to make it happening, it's sort of already closing. Everyone's looking for replacement jobs. People that were staffed on the Roseanne show went, oh man, I have mortgage payments. I've got kids I got to feed. I've got all sorts of fiscal responsibilities. And well, once you lose a writing team, you kind of lose the magic of what you had going on. I still haven't seen the show, and that's part of what bums me out. I was just kind of curious to check it out because it was so massively successful. And I was sort of I wouldn't turn Roseanne off back in the day when I was a kid and it came on TV, but I was never necessarily a Roseanne fan. Like I was talking about with you yesterday, I saw Roseanne play live a little while ago, saw her do stand-up, and man, she killed. She absolutely slayed. She was an absolute pro. And it's interesting because I have to imagine that tweet, and this is just me playing armchair psychologist, I have to imagine that tweet might have in some sort of way been self-sabotage. I mean, Roseanne's a kook that has been a kook for a long time, and there's evidence of her just out there-ness all over her Twitter account. So she is in some way, I think, disassociated from reality. But she's been around the block enough times. She's enough of a professional to know. She's seasoned enough to understand the fact that if you have a hit show and a massive Twitter following, and you say something like that on it, well, you're going down in flames, and you will not have a hit show or any show past, approximately 48 hours from the time that you tweeted the tweet. So I have to imagine that there might have been an element of self-sabotage to what she did. For what reason, I have no idea. But I can't imagine she was like, I'm just going to tweet this and that'll be okay, no matter how much Ambien she had ingested. Also, other people have talked about Roseanne moving to a conservative network or streaming service. But even if the ball got rolling on that, there's no way the rest of the cast would join in. So let's face it. Roseanne the show is dead. If we are really that upset about losing a good show with a normalish middle American family with relatable issues and a pro-Trump matriarch, then, well, we can always demand, create, and support more shows oriented like that. There's no need to defend Roseanne Barr. We can do better.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me.
You know who everybody feels lousy for, and with good reason as well? John Goodman. I mean, like the rest of the cast of Roseanne, he was scuppered. And by the way, John Goodman has had a very successful run at being an actor. He'll be just fine. But, man, the way he dealt with an annoying photographer in New Orleans where he lives trying to get his thoughts on the Roseanne cancellation was the epitome of class. He was really polite, but he just didn't weigh in.
It's not that I disrespect you guys. I would rather say nothing than to cause more trouble here.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We heard some talks about you possibly having your own show.
Then you've heard more than I have.
Is everything okay though with you? Everything's fine? No comments at all about any Twitter or anything?
No, I don't know anything about it. I don't read it.
Okay, that's cool.
Thank you.
We hope you have good luck in the future.
Good luck with you guys.
Thank you very much. There were some stories about maybe that you might not get an Emmy because of this.
Well, I wasn't going to get an Emmy anyway.
Really? We want you to get one. Everyone loves you.
I've been up there 12 times already, and if I don't get one by now, I'm not going to get one.
I'm sure they'll give you an Emmy.
No.
Anyways, classy individual who handled it well, I thought, anyway. In my opinion, he did the right thing. So, oh man, speaking of doing the right thing, if you had an opportunity to talk to Donald Trump about something meaningful like, well, prison reform, would you take it? Well, that's where you, my friend, are a whole lot like Kim Kardashian. Yeah, I promise we talk about this. And it's one of those things that makes you go, what? Huh? But just what? How? What? Really? Okay. I guess I'll read and find out. What exactly happened was this. President Trump's big summit with Kim didn't get canceled after all. In fact, it happened yesterday, except for the Kim that he met was Kim Kardashian, and instead of disarming nukes, they discussed prison reform. Yeah. Yep. I couldn't possibly make this up. This is politics in America in 2018. Whether you fall down on the left or the right, this is just a difficult one to understand. And by the way, I think that Kim Kardashian is, for the most part, apolitical, but she's not a conservative. So there is sort of like, there is the idea of a meeting of oh, guys, sorry, I'm just trying to find a silver lining on this one. I was going to say it's nice that a conservative is someone who's not a conservative could sit down and have a meaningful conversation and everything goes fine. But it's just too weird. It's just too weird to pull that off with any success. Yeah, you heard me right. The president of these United States of America and leader of the free world met with Kim Kardashian to discuss prison reform. To be fair, Kim had a noble cause to peddle. She wanted clemency for a 62-year-old grandmother named Alice Marie Johnson, who's serving a life sentence for a first-time nonviolent drug offense. She's been locked up for over 20 years so far. So there's that. After their meeting, Kim said, quote, "I would like to thank President Trump for his time this afternoon. It is our hope that the president will grant clemency to Miss Alice Marie Johnson. We are optimistic about Miss Johnson's future and hopeful that she and so many like her will get a second chance at life." Trump tweeted a picture of himself with Kim Kardashian and said, quote, "Great meeting with Kim Kardashian today. Talked about prison reform and sentencing." So yeah, it's America. America in 2018. Yep. Okay. Moving right along. So with the beginning of the summertime, have you noticed an uptick in hitchhikers? I feel like I hardly ever see them anymore. And when I do see them, it's not in the wintertime. But since Memorial Day this week, I've seen probably 3-4 folks sticking their thumbs out looking for rides off the side of the highway. And I just I don't get it. I don't understand it. Have you ever hitchhiked before? Because if you did, you're a braver person than I am. Here's Kirk Fox on exactly why it's a horrendous idea.
Saw something nice as I was driving in here. Saw a beautiful girl hitchhiking. That's nice. Nice to see women out there trying to connect again. They should just rename Hitchhiking Kill Me. I mean, who's climbing into a car with a complete stranger? It's like, where are you going? Morgue. Oh, I'm going right past there. Let me go ahead and pop the trunk. There's some duct tape in there. Go ahead and get started. I'll catch up with you after my set at the Libero Theater. You know, the duct tape probably was originally called abduction tape. That was probably the original name for duct tape. But they just weren't hitting the homeowners and plumbers. A lot of serial killers, but they just use a few strips and then the rest evidence locker. Hard to get the stock in. Saw something the other night I've never seen before. I saw a 24-hour car wash. I've never seen a 24-hour car wash. Then I thought to myself, if you're washing your car at 4 a.m., you just killed a hitchhiker. If I was a cop, that's where I'd work. I'd work at the 24-hour car wash from 4 to 4:30 a.m. and arrest everyone washing their car. What are you doing? Just washing my car. Pop the trunk. Duct tape body, you're under arrest. How'd you know? Scanner, cop sense, got lucky.
Have you ever picked up a hitchhiker? I've never hitchhiked, but I did once pick up a hitchhiker. And it wasn't so much a hitchhiker as a guy that looked as though he was having an emergency. He flagged me down by the side of the road, and I was young. This is actually one of my first experiences driving. I was on a week off from the band, and everybody else had gone back home to England. I had a van, and I was sort of tooling around Long Island, and this guy in kind of a nice residential neighborhood was waving me down, looking like he was having an emergency. And he was like, "I need a ride. Can you give me a ride?" I was like, "Okay." I thought maybe you needed help, but sure, yeah. Where are you going? He's like, "You know this place?" And I was like, "I think I know that place." "Then you know why I'm going there. I need a fix really bad." I was like, "Oh my God, did I just pick up a hitchhiking junkie?" And I was like, oh, hell no. Oh, what to do? What's going on? And I was just like, "You, my friend, need to put your hands on the dashboard. And if they move in any way, shape, or form from the dashboard, there is going to be big trouble. I'm going to take you there and I'm going to drop you off, and that will be the end of it. And if you ever see me again, you never talk to me. We are not friends. We will not be moving forward with this relationship." And the guy was strung out and he was a junkie. And I actually told a cop afterwards, and the cop was like, "Oh, yeah. That makes sense. We'll go check it out." But that was my one and only experience picking up a hitchhiker, and I decided, I don't think I need to do that again.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So when you've been looking for a job, when you've been applying for gainful employment, your resume, how honest were you on that? Did you embellish? Now, I think a lot of people tend to embellish their resumes. You just gotta think twice about outright lies. And you definitely don't want to do what this woman we're about to talk about did. Because, well, thanks to what she put on her resume, she got 10 years in prison for fraud. Yeah, true story. How this all play out, we'll get into it a little later on in the show. Right now, though, let's you and I take a look at the events of today. Let's check out what's going on in the news. Kim Kardashian went to the White House yesterday, as you and I talked about before. Kim Kardashian went to the White House to talk to President Trump about prison reform. Yes, Kim Kardashian talked to President Trump about prison reform. Now, I know Donald Trump donates his presidential salary, but I still feel as though our tax dollars are going to fund conversations on company time during the workday between Donald Trump and Kim Kardashian. And I don't want to pay taxes that help pay for that. I don't want to be the person whose tax dollar pays for the electricity that switches on the light bulb in the room where they gather. I don't want to pay for their coffee or whatever sort of refreshing beverages they had together. I want no part of any of my hard-earned blood, sweat, and tears going to fund a meeting between Kardashians and presidents. It's not okay. Yeah, here's the thing. Sorry, Kim Kardashian, but when it comes to a frank discussion of the legal, ethical, and moral conundrums that America faces with regard to penal reform and future potential implementation of alternatives to incarceration and their effects on an ongoing culture of recidivism, I really don't think that we should be making any firm decisions until we've heard from Paris Hilton. Yeah. Kim Kardashian went to the White House to talk to President Trump about prison reform. And today I believe he's meeting with the Cash Me Outside Habada girl for a summit on peace in the Middle East. So good times. Wow. Donald Trump's getting pretty bold. I mean, now he's meeting with porn stars right underneath Melania's nose. And I believe out of habit, Michael Cohen gave Kim Kardashian a $130,000 check for her not to talk about it afterwards. ABC is developing a spin-off of its working-class comedy The Middle, starring Eden Sher. Yeah, ABC is developing a spin-off of its working-class comedy The Middle. Everything should be fine as long as Eden Sher doesn't tweet anything racist. So there's that. A woman at a Vanilla Ice concert was injured after she fell off stage. Yeah, have you ever seen Vanilla Ice play? Vanilla Ice does this thing where he gets people up on stage, like To him, MTV Spring Break in about 1997 never ended. So every Vanilla Ice concert that I've ever been to, and weirdly enough, I've been to several. In fact, my band, we opened up for Vanilla Ice in San Antonio, Texas. I just remembered this. It was a good show. It was fun. He does put on a decent show, I gotta tell you. It's sort of like 90s horrorcore. He's got a live drummer, he's got a DJ, and, well, people are just eating it up. And he puts on an entertaining performance. Is he the greatest rapper on the face of the planet? No. Does he know how to throw quite the party? Yes. And the party culminates, like I said, with a scene that looks like it's straight out of 1997 Spring Break video on MTV, where every single female in the audience gets up on stage and dances around. There might even be the occasional impromptu wet t-shirt contest. But, yeah, it all went horribly wrong when a woman at a concert was injured after she fell off stage. Fortunately, though, paramedics were nearby to tend to her with ice, ice, baby. Leah Thompson. You remember her? Leah Thompson from Back to the Future turns 57 today. Happy birthday to Leah Thompson, who turns 57 today. Wow. She was Marty McFly's mom / unbelievably creepy incestual love interest when he went back in time. Yes, Leah Thompson from Back to the Future, 57 today. What a brave, trailblazing woman she was. She lusted after her own offspring in front of an entire nation long before President Trump made it cool. Some people think Hillary Clinton is secretly wearing a back brace. Yeah, I don't know if you caught it or not. Hillary's health became a massive thing during the campaign. There was this hope amongst the conservatives who thought that Trump couldn't necessarily beat her fair and square, that she had to be sick and fallen off platforms. And I think some people accused her of having a stroke in the middle of speeches and whatnot. And there were some weird things that made people question sort of her cognitive abilities when she was out on the campaign trail, that's for sure. But yeah, some people are now saying that Hillary Clinton is secretly wearing a back brace. I believe she injured it during the campaign, while fighting staffers who tried anything they could to pull her into Michigan and Wisconsin. A Louisiana televangelist wants followers to donate $54 million for a plane to spread God's word. Okay. When will these guys learn how much easier it is to convert God's word into a PDF and press send? Save yourself a lot of time. The makers of A1 Steak Sauce are launching a line of steak, burger, and barbecue scented candles. Really? Steak, burger, and barbecue scented candles, you say? Well, perfect housewarming gift for a vegan that you really, really, and I do mean really hate. All right, then, let's talk about you and your resume, shall we, for a momentito? Now, have you ever embellished? When you've been looking to become gainfully employed, have you ever said some things on your resume that weren't strictly true? Have you ever said that you were able to do things that you'd never done before? I got to tell you, when I got my first ever job in radio at 94.5 The Buzz in Houston, Texas, working on weekend overnights, I was in no way, shape, or form qualified to be on the radio. I'd never been on the radio. I mean, here's the thing. I was in a band, and as a guy in a band, I'd been into plenty of radio stations, and I had done interviews and stuff like that, but I didn't know what all the brightly flashing candy-colored buttons did. I mean, I loved radio. I loved radio so much, and after the interview was over, I was like, hey, do you mind if I just sort of stick around? You don't have to talk to me anymore. I'm not going to try and shill my album, but do you think you could maybe let me, introduce a song or something like that? It would mean the world to me. I always loved radio. I thought radio was so unbelievably cool. And when my time in the band was over, when Seagram's, a booze company, bought Polygram, the parent company to my record label, and we got told in the middle of a very successful tour that we had to bring the tour bus back because there wasn't a label anymore, and there wasn't money anymore, and there wasn't tour support anymore, I had to figure out something I was going to do eventually. And somehow I got it into my skull that maybe I could do radio. And a buddy of mine, he was, and this is really faking it till you make it, a buddy of mine was a very successful radio personality in New York City. And I was in New York City, and I was like, I'm going to move to Houston. Sort of an easier way of life down there. It's cheaper. I like it. I like the people there. I love Houston. And I'm just going to try and make a fresh start there. If I try and get a job in New York City saying, hey, I'm a guy that used to be in a band that had a couple of minor hits Man, there's like 12 of me on every single corner in New York City or in Los Angeles, but Houston was a cool place to go because, well, I loved it there. I had such a great time whenever I had been in Texas. I had really close friends there, and I just decided it would be a good spot to be because Houston's also an interesting one. Houston, and if you're listening on KPRC in Houston, you know this, but Houston is a very media-driven town for one very important reason. It's not like New York City or any other city around the country where there's a certain amount of foot traffic. It's a car culture. People don't really do a ton of walking. A, it's too hot to walk for any real length of time. And B, you just need a car to get to A from A to B. So there's no foot traffic. There's no walk-ins if you've got a store. So you're not going into a store or a restaurant or any of the above unless you've seen an advertisement for it or heard an advertisement on the radio or on TV or gotten a 2-for-1 coupon through your door. And as a result, Houston is an incredibly media-driven town. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to do something in media. That was all I knew how to do. I thought maybe I would do some sort of marketing thing because I'd, from being a punk rock guy in a band that wound up DIYing marketing and things of that nature, I kind of had an idea a little bit of how all that would go. But my buddy was like, be on the radio. It's easy. And he helped me fake up a demo that made me sound like him, i.e. good and experienced. And I was neither of those things. But when I got to Houston, I looked up the person I was supposed to look up and, well, hunted them down and gave them my demo, and they're like, this is really good. And I didn't tell them that I had no idea what any of the buttons in the studio meant. Now, they kind of knew who I was. They'd played my band on the radio before, so it sort of got my foot in the door, but I allowed them to believe that I knew what not to do to avoid taking the station off the air or losing them their broadcasting license. My band had been on a bunch of X Games tours, and we've been part of the X Games soundtrack. And as such, I've been asked to be a minor part of this thing called EXPN Radio, which was sort of like this action sports music show that the folks over at ESPN produced. And I was like, okay, I'll be on that. So I had a demo of that never got aired. And I think I allowed them to believe that had been on the air somewhere before. So it seemed like I had some experience in radio, but yeah, I did not. I showed up on my first day of radio, and Travis Golightly, who's been on this show a whole bunch, helped me. He was like, this is how you do a radio show. And I was like, I never would have known. I never would have lasted. I never would have lasted past day one without you telling me this. So I managed to fake it until I kind of sort of vaguely made it. And I did that, I guess, kind of with a small amount of embellishment on my resume. But yeah, a lot of people embellish their resume. You probably want to think twice, though. You probably want to think twice about all-out lies. And definitely don't do what this woman did. Back in 2015, a 41-year-old woman called Cindy White landed a sweet job in human resources at a food company about 30 miles north of New Orleans in Louisiana. Problem was, she wasn't actually qualified for this job in any way, shape, or form. She didn't even have a resume of her own that would help her get hired. It's not so much that she lied on her resume, it's that she found a woman on LinkedIn with a similar name, copied her entire resume, and then passed it off as her own, and negotiated a starting salary of $95,000. I know, it's impressive, right? Among other things, her fake resume said that she went to Tulane University, also said that she got her master's degree from Hebrew University in Jerusalem. I guess if you're going to lie about this sort of thing, go big, right? Anyways, the funny part is she was actually really good at her job. Yeah, she was good enough at her job to get promoted in just 5 months. And her pay, I haven't had a pay raise like this, I don't know, ever. Her pay got bumped up in the space of 5 months from $95,000 to $105,000 a year. So she was getting paid rather well to do a job that it sounds like she was pretty good at. But she got it under completely false pretenses by, well, not necessarily even lying, by appropriating somebody else's resume. She got canned about 2 months after that when someone realized that she lied. And then, get this, she got arrested. She got arrested for fraud. You see, it turns out that she'd also stolen the woman's social security number. And this past month just gone by, a judge sentenced her to, get this, 10 years in prison. Yeah, essentially what she did was she lied on her resume, and now she's getting 10 long years in prison. At least 3 other companies have now come forward and said that she pulled similar stunts with them. She even threatened to sue one of them after they fired her. Oh, the stones on this woman. That's very, very impressive stuff. They fired her because she lied about her resume and who she was, and then she threatened to sue them. And now she could face an additional 10 years in prison because of that. So yeah, when in doubt, tell the truth. It'll set you free and whatnot. All the old sayings are true. Hey, have a great and safe weekend. Thank you so much for hanging. Thank you for being a part of my radio family. If you need anything between now and the next time, tweet me at ADSXE. Later.